Hezbollah airstrikes hit city of Haifa. 10 Israelis reported injured. Hamas-Israel war continues to devastate lives of Palestinians. Good afternoon and Salam Alaikum Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mohana Priya and you're watching World Today. Hezbollah rockets hit Haifa, Israel's third largest city, earlier this morning. Israel media reported 10 people were injured in the country's north. The cross-border strike was targeting military bases of the Zionist regime. Hezbollah said it targeted a military base south of Haifa with a salvo of Fadi-1 missiles. According to the Israeli military, 5 rockets launched from Lebanon had hit the port city. Some buildings and properties were damaged, and there were several reports of injuries, with some people taken to a nearby hospital. The group also said the strike was conducted in response to Israel's intensified campaign in Lebanon, with targeted airstrikes on Hezbollah strongholds in Beirut. Israel is continuing to bomb areas across Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah sites, while the group attacks areas in northern Israel and fights back IDF ground troops. The number of Palestinians killed in Gaza from the ongoing Israeli attacks has risen to 41,870. Now, the figures were released by the Gaza-based health authorities in a statement on Sunday. Over the past 24 hours, the Israeli military killed 45 people and wounded 256 others in Gaza, bringing the total number of injuries to 97,166 since the Palestinian-Israeli conflict broke out 1 year ago. On Sunday, a reporter was killed in an Israeli airstrike on Gaza, according to the media office in the region. This brings the total number of media professionals killed in the Gaza Strip to 175 since October 2023. Israel has continued its brutal offensive on the Gaza Strip, ignoring a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire. The Israeli onslaught has displaced almost the entire population of the territory amid an ongoing blockade that has led to severe shortages of food, clean water and medicine. It faces accusations of genocide at the International Court of Justice for its actions in Gaza. And in a related development, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the Israeli war on Gaza, which began a year ago, continues to devastate the lives of Palestinians, inflicting severe humanitarian suffering. In a video message marking the first anniversary of the ongoing Israeli genocidal war on Gaza, Guterres emphasized the need for the international community to focus on the horrific events that have transpired, expressing solidarity with the victims and their families. He noted that the Lebanese people have also suffered as a result of the ongoing war, stressing the urgent need to silence the guns and end the pain engulfing the region. He said the 7th of October is naturally a day to focus on the events of that awful day, and he expressed his solidarity with all the victims and their loved ones.
The war that has followed the terrible attacks of 1 year ago continues to shatter lives and inflict profound human suffering for Palestinians in Gaza and now the people of Lebanon. I have spoken out about this often and clearly. It's time for the release of the hostages, time to silence the guns, time to stop the suffering that has engulfed the region. Time for peace, international law, and justice.
Guterres underscored the importance of relentlessly pursuing a permanent resolution to the conflict, one that allows Palestine, Israel, and all the other countries in the region to live in peace, dignity, and mutual respect. Hundreds of people in Turkey's southeastern city of Diyarbakir marched in support of Palestinians on Sunday to commemorate the first anniversary of the war in Gaza. Protesters chanted anti-Israeli slogans and voiced support for Hamas. 7th of October marks 1 year since the attacks in southern Israel, where 1,200 people were killed and 250 were taken hostage. Israel's subsequent military assault on Gaza has killed nearly 42,000 Palestinians, according to Gaza's health ministry. It has laid waste to the enclave, displacing nearly all of the 2.3 million population and causing a hunger crisis. Israel is also targeting Hezbollah in Lebanon, with its airstrikes battering Beirut's southern suburbs overnight and early on Sunday. It is seen as the most intense bombardment of the Lebanese capital since Israel escalated its campaign there. Meanwhile, protesters gathered on Sunday in Navalmoral de la Mata, Cesares, in Spain's western region of Extremadura, outside the factory of a German automotive and arms manufacturer involved in weapons sales to Israel. Organized by Extremadura con Palestina, the demonstration outside Remetol's factory called for an end to military operations in Gaza and the West Bank, nearly 1 year after the latest conflict in the Middle East region began. Marching to the facility's gates, the protesters demanded an end to the company's role in the conflict, condemning its production of missile systems developed in partnership with Israeli company Elbit Systems, reportedly used in Gaza bombings. The demonstration also highlighted Remetol's acquisition of the Spanish arms manufacturer Expal, which included 2 factories in Extremadura. Protesters also urged greater scrutiny of the company's activities, criticizing its contribution to the escalation of violence in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Iran's Quds Force commander Ismail Qaani, who traveled to Lebanon after the killing last month of Hezbollah leader Said Hassan Nasrallah in an Israeli airstrike, has not been heard from since strikes on Beirut late last week. Senior Iranian security officials said Qaani was in Beirut's southern suburbs, known as the Dahiyeh, during a strike on Thursday that was reported to have targeted senior Hezbollah official Hashim Safieddine. But the official said he was not meeting Safieddine. Iran and Hezbollah has not been able to contact Qaani since then. Israel has been hitting multiple targets in Dahiyeh as it pursues a campaign against Iran-backed Lebanese group Hezbollah. The second official also said Qaani has traveled to Lebanon after the killing of Nasrallah, and the Iranian authorities had not been able to contact him since the strike against Safieddine, who was widely expected to be the next Hezbollah chief. The Quds Force, the overseas arm of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, oversees dealings with Tehran allies across the Middle East, such as Hezbollah. Saudi's King Salman will receive treatment for lung inflammation. According to a statement from the royal court, the 88-year-old king of the world's largest oil exporter previously received medical care for lung inflammation in May. He last chaired a cabinet meeting in August, shortly after issuing a royal decree allowing the cabinet to convene in his absence, the absence of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or both. The decree stipulated that in their absence, the eldest cabinet member, who is a descendant of King Salman's father, King Abdulaziz Al Saud, the founder of modern Saudi Arabia, would preside over meetings. King Salman underwent gallbladder surgery in 2020 and has been king since the death of King Abdullah in 2015. In 2017, he replaced Crown Prince Mohammed bin Nayef with his son Mohammed bin Salman. A massive blast rocked a road near the airport of Pakistan's largest city as a separatist group claimed on Monday an attack in the area. Pakistani local channel Geo News reported 2 dead and 10 wounded. The regional government of southern Sindh province said on social media site X, formerly known as Twitter, that a tanker had exploded on the airport motorway. Separatist group the Baloch Liberation Army BLA meanwhile said in a statement that it had targeted a high-level convoy of Chinese engineers and investors coming from Karachi's airport. The BLA is a separatist group advocating for autonomy of Pakistan's Balochistan province, the largest but poorest region of the country. The group has regularly targeted Chinese nationals, claiming ethnic Baloch locals are not receiving their fair share of wealth extracted by foreign investors. Pakistan's Civil Aviation Authority said flights from Karachi were continuing as usual, and agencies are investigating the cause at the scene of the accident or explosion. Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Hassan and Investment Trade and Industry Minister Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Abdul Aziz have arrived in Vientiane to attend the 44th and 45th ASEAN Summits and related summits. Both ministers arrived at Wate International Airport at 7:45 p.m. local time on Sunday. The summit will be held at the National Convention Centre NCC in the capital from the 8th to 11th October. Approximately 2,000 delegates will attend the event, including heads of state and government from ASEAN member countries, dialogue partner nations, external partner nations, and representatives from regional and international organizations. The ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting AMM will officially kick off the summits on the 8th of October, while the opening ceremony for the 44th and 45th ASEAN Summits and related summits will take place on 9th October. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim is expected to deliver Malaysia's statement during the summits. On Friday, Laos will officially hand over the ASEAN chairmanship to Malaysia. Trading across Asia kicks off today with the global macro and market landscape suddenly appearing very different from how it looked on Friday. Sentiment is highly buoyed by the U.S. employment figures announced on Friday. Close at home, Thailand is releasing its September inflation figures later today. Annual headline inflation is expected to be 0.8%, well up from August reading. Thailand's inflation target range is 1 to 3%, and inflation has come in below that lower band every single month since April last year, except May this year. The finance minister and central bank governor met last week and will meet later this month to discuss the inflation target. The central bank has resisted repeated calls from the government to cut interest rates. Coming up next, Brazilians vote in more than 5,500 municipal elections. Brazilians voted on Sunday for mayors and city councillors in more than 5,500 municipal elections, with polls showing conservative candidates running strong in several major cities, setting the country's political landscape ahead of a 2026 presidential race. All eyes are on the mayoral vote in Sao Paulo, Brazil's largest city, where three candidates are running neck and neck after an aggressive campaign, setting the stage for a second round of runoff on 27th October. Centre-right incumbent Mayor Ricardo Nunes, who led the race until last week, is tied for second place at 26% of the votes, with far-right digital influencer Pablo Marcal, an unprecedented split in the conservative vote. President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva cast his vote in Sao Paulo, where there has been a surge in candidates who are focused in provoking others and spreading fake news. Polls showed that candidates linked to Lula are facing trouble as the president's popularity has slipped in his third non-consecutive term. To win outright in the first round, candidates for mayor of cities of 200,000 voters or more need to gain more than 50% of valid votes. Tunisia's election authority reported a voter turnout of 27.7% on Sunday in the country's presidential election. Now, the results widely expected to return Kais Saied to power against a 45% turnout in 2019. The figure is the lowest Tunisia has recorded in a presidential poll since its revolution in 2011. Official results are not expected until Monday evening, but an exit poll by a polling agency showed Saied in the lead with 89.2% of the votes.
فنسبة الإقبال الأولية في حدود الساعة 6 مساء تشير إلى تصويت 2,704,155 ناخب وناخبة تونسي وتونسية بكامل تراب الجمهورية وفي الخارج بنسبة كما تلاحظون على الشاشة 27.7%.
The incumbent Said faced two election rivals, his former ally turned critic, Chab party leader Zuhair Magouzi, and Ayachi Zamel, who was jailed last month. Political tensions have risen since an electoral commission named by Said disqualified three prominent candidates last month, amid protests by opposition and civil society groups. Kazakhstan began voting in a referendum on Sunday on whether to build its first nuclear power plant, an idea promoted by President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev's government as the Central Asian nation seeks to phase out polluting coal plants. The plan has faced public criticism on concern over any related hazards, the Soviet nuclear testing legacy, and fears that Russia will be involved in the project. Despite its sizable natural gas reserves, the Central Asian nation of 20 million relies mostly on coal-powered plants for its electricity needs, supplemented by some hydroelectric plants and the growing renewable energy sector. The referendum will be considered valid if more than 50% of registered voters cast their ballots. Kazakhstan already imports electricity, mostly from Russia, as its facilities, many of which are old, struggle to meet domestic demand. Coal is generally regarded as the most polluting energy source. The government says a reliable energy supply is needed to supplement renewable sources such as solar and wind power. And since Kazakhstan is one of the world's biggest uranium producers, nuclear power is a logical choice. Mozambique's ruling Frelimo party held its final election rally outside Maputo city on Sunday as the country gears for its general election on 9th of October. Now, the party's presidential candidate, Daniel Chapo, a former radio announcer and law lecturer, is widely expected to replace Philippine Nyusi as president of the Southeast African nation. Campaigning under the slogan, "Let's get to work," Chapo, 47, is expected to oversee the building of two liquefied natural gas projects currently on hold because of insecurity in northern Cabo Delgado province. Addressing supporters, Chapo said the attacks in Cabo Delgado and other areas north of the country are a threat to the whole country. Frelimo has been in power since Mozambique's independence in 1975. Shortly after independence, a 16-year civil war between Frelimo and former guerrilla movement Renamo, now the country's main opposition, killed around 1 million people before a truce in 1992 ended the worst of the bloodshed. However, violence has flared up periodically around elections. Still to come in sports, Vinicius Jr. confirmed to miss upcoming Brazil World Cup qualifying match.
Bagi melaksanakan misi, mempertahan maruah, mencipta secara setia perkembangan takkan jenta dengan asalkan membuat peluang untuk segerakan satu perjuangan, satu suara akan yang direncana di dada dalam memburu takkan keraguan, kekuatan bicara sehingga membakar sangat kenangan.
Welcome back. The Brazilian Football Association, CBF, announced that forward Vinicius Jr. will miss his World Cup qualifiers against Chile and Peru due to injury, making him the fourth player to be replaced in the squad. Vinicius suffered a neck injury during Real Madrid's 2-0 home win against Villarreal on Saturday, with Fulham midfielder Andreas Pereira called up to replace him. Vinicius had a bad fall during a challenge for the ball with Sergi Cardona, forcing him to leave the pitch in the 79th minute. Real Madrid's medical team recommended that he skip Brazil's next 2 matches during the international break, since such a long trip, about 12 hours by plane, could be harmful to his injury. Vinicius' injury adds to the woes of coach Dorival Jr. as Brazil, 5th in CONMEBOL's World Cup qualifying standings with 10 points after 8 matches, faced Chile in Santiago on Thursday before hosting Peru in Brasilia 5 days later. The top 6 of the 10 teams qualified directly for the World Cup. Dorival had already been forced to call up Paris Saint-Germain's Lucas Beraldo, Palmeiras' Weverton and Botafogo's Alex Telles to replace Juventus' Bremer, Liverpool's Alisson and Atletico Mineiro's Guilherme Airana, all injured. Meanwhile, Real Madrid right-back Dani Carvajal will undergo surgery after rupturing 2 ligaments and a tendon in his right leg. Now, the Spaniard was taken off on a stretcher during Saturday's 2-0 home win over Villarreal. The 32-year-old Spain international twisted his right knee during a duel with Villarreal midfielder Yeremy Pino in stoppage time. In a statement on Sunday, Real said Carvajal has been diagnosed with a ruptured anterior cruciate ligament, a ruptured external collateral ligament, and a ruptured popliteal tendon in his right leg. The Spanish legend will turn 33 years old in January, so he is expected to be patient during the recovery process in order to return as an elite defender next season. Carvajal would have been cheered up when Madrid offered him a contract extension, which he has signed to keep him at the club until June 2026. Carvajal's contract was due to expire at the end of the campaign. He has already been with the Los Blancos since the age of 10 and has won 6 UEFA Champions League titles and 4 La Liga crowns during his time there, while amassing 427 appearances. Now, twice MotoGP champion Francesco Bagnaia won the Japanese Grand Prix in Motegi on Sunday to complete a weekend double and cut his gap to rival Jorge Martin at the top of the World Championship down to 10 points. Now, the Ducati rider, who qualified in second after dominating practice and won Saturday's sprint, kept Martin at bay for 20 laps to clinch an 8th win of the season for the first time in his career. Martin's second-place finish moved him up to 392 points, while Bagnaia is second on 382, with 4 races left to go in the season. The race began in overcast conditions at Montegi's twin ring circuit, with pole sitter Pedro Acosta overtaken before the first turn of the first lap as Bagnaia darted past him into the lead. Championship leader Martin of Pramac Racing began in the 4th row after crashing during qualifying, but had a spectacular opening lap as he launched himself off the line and quickly moved up from 11th to 4th. The battle for the Riders' Championship came to the forefront of the 4th lap when Martin rose to second as he overtook Brad Binder and rookie Acosta, who crashed in Saturday's sprint, once again went down. Gresini Racing's Marc Marquez completed the podium after starting 9th on the grid. World number 2 Carlos Alcaraz moved into the 4th round of the Shanghai Masters with a hard-fought 7-6, 6-3 victory against Wu Yibing on Sunday. He earned his 11th consecutive win to advance to the Rolex Shanghai Masters 4th round. Alcaraz showed off some of his best tennis during the match against the competitive Chinese wildcard, hitting 23 winners. Having clinched his 4th title of the season at the China Open earlier this week, Alcaraz remains unbeaten since his shock second-round exit at the US Open and has now claimed 100 hard-court wins. Leading in the tiebreak, Wu appeared to be in strong position to clinch the opening set, but Alcaraz held his nerve to storm into the lead. The 24-year-old dug deep and made Alcaraz work for his service games, but a slight lapse in concentration in the 6th game handed the Spaniard an ultimately decisive break. From there, Alcaraz kept his foot on the gas and emerged the victor. Chinese men's tennis has undergone an eye-catching rise during the Asian swing, but Alcaraz is proving to spoil the party after he defeated rising star Shang Juncheng in his Shanghai opener. Meanwhile, in women's tennis, world number 6 Coco Gauff dominated unseeded Czech Karolina Muchova to win the China Open in Beijing 6-1, 6-3 on Sunday and become the first player to win each of their first 7 WTA hardcourt finals in the Open era. Now, Gauff fired off 24 winners in a strong performance to claim a second WTA 1000 title of her career after her 2023 victory in Cincinnati, where she also beat Muchova in the final. Gauff made a fast start, breaking the Czech for a 2-0 lead in the first set and then holding her own serve without conceding a point. She had 3 break points in the 6th game and converted the first to break to a 5-1 lead against a shell-shocked Muchova. Her serving wobbles momentarily returned, but she wrapped the first set up 29 minutes on her 3rd set point. Despite the loss, Muchova leaves Beijing in dangerous form. She entered the week at number 49 on the WTA rankings and will surge back into the top 30. She also sits at number 26 on the race to the PIF WTA finals.
6-1, 6-1.
And that wraps up World Today this time round. In our top story today, Hezbollah airstrikes hit city of Haifa. 10 Israelis reported injured. Till next time, I'm Mohanapriya, Malaysia Madani. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching and for your company.